Welcome to the bike show. Once again, we've got a packed show. We've got a bona fide rock star. We're going to do a lot of nodding. More about that later. But first, Dangerous Don is getting naked, and that's quite scary.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here on this balmy day in Johannesburg, and we are going to go for a ride. I've got my Airflow jacket, plus my Airflow bike. This is the GSX-S1000, and it is Suzuki's big naked bike. Now, being a naked bike is a big deal. It really is. Some of the people in Europe might find this a bit confusing, but understand something, that when a South African buys a motorcycle, the first thing he does is look for a huge engine, which we sort of have. The next thing he does is he tries to find the biggest, most humongous screen he can find. And then he buys that motorcycle. While comfort is important, especially when you plan to traverse the whole of the country over one weekend, naked bikes have their perks too. Now, riding a naked bike is sort of motorcycle purism. It is the full motorcycling experience. I mean, as I am here now, I'm exposed to the elements. I feel the wind through my jacket, the sun on my neck. I can breathe in the air, breathe in the smells, and I've got a full panoramic view. Or I would have a panoramic view if it weren't for these bloody mirrors. I mean, who needs mirrors anyway? You're ruining my life over here! But what of the GSX-S? It is, of course, a Suzuki, which means it automatically has hordes of fans. Now, Suzuki are obviously doing something right because they have some of the most loyal and hardcore fans in the world. You look at bikes like the Hayabusa, the Boulevard, the Bandit 1250, even the GSX-R1000. Some of them are nearly 10 years old, and yet Suzuki can't make enough of them. People are still buying them. Suzuki fans will buy Suzukis no matter what. Some of them even get a bit fanatical. They do things like tattoo Suzuki onto their foreheads. Now, I'm a good journalist, so I need to get into the mind of the Suzuki fans. So I'm afraid there's no other way out of it. Now, because I'm a journalist, I can't actually afford a tattoo artist, so I'm going to do this old school. Or, more specifically, like I did in school, with a compass. Right. How hard can this be? After my failed tattoo attempts and some very strong medication, I eventually managed to figure out why Suzuki has such an unwavering fandom. The Hayabusa, the Boulevard, and the other famous models are all heading on to being 10 years old now. And when they first came out, they were at the very top of their segments. They were so good, in fact, that even now they are still right up there with their modern counterparts. More so, even the actual bikes that are now 10 years old are still as good as when they were new. That is the Suzuki way. And you can feel it with the GSX-S. Its motor is based on a 2005 GSX-R1000 that they've been building for 11 years now. So they should be good at it by now. It produces 145 horsepower, which is a good deal less than its European competition. But then it only costs 143,500 Rand. So while it doesn't necessarily tug at your arm sockets, it'll certainly tug less on your wallet. But then it has this very grounded way in which it releases its power. While the Europeans hit you like a missile, the Suzuki is like an angry bloke sitting in a pub. And opening the throttle is like poking him with a stick. Every time you do it, he gets more angry. Oh, I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry. Oh, I'm angry. Oh, that's marvelous. So that's the charm of Suzuki. Rugged fun through rugged and dependable simplicity. This bike is fun now, and it'll be fun in 20 years' time. I think I'm going to go have a lie down. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good night.
So, Donovan, you seem to have had a lot of blood on your face there, and yet there is no scar.
Yeah, I kind of had to have it removed. It was a bit of a problem. You see, we were working with mirrors. It was really confusing, and I kind of accidentally wrote Ikuzu Isuzus on my face instead of Suzuki. That's a bit embarrassing. I don't want to talk about it.
Okay,
Yeah,
we won't
so-
talk about it. Let's talk about the bike. This is effectively the naked version of the GSX-S1000S What is it called?
GSX-S1000F.
Catchy name from Suzuki.
Which is obviously the bike that we race in the endurance series.
Which we absolutely love, very competent. It's the same bike, but naked, isn't
As
it?
I say, yeah, it hasn't got the big fairing and all of that.
Same power, same everything.
Pretty much exactly the same, except a bit more wind, a bit more view, a bit more everything. Yeah.
So we know the handling's good enough to race,
Yeah.
surprisingly enough. The engine's a belter because, as you said, it's what, a 10-year-old,
It's 11 years old, yeah.
a GSX-R1000 full-blown motor, so... Horsepower, we reckon, what, 145, we said?
Well, I said 145. His crib sheet here says 143, but I think he's wrong.
We split the difference. It's 144 horsepower,
144.
which is bang in the region for this type of bike, isn't it?
Well, it's a Z1000 and it's a sort of, call it kindred spirits if you like. That's both the same sort of price, around 145,000 Rand. They're both about 144 horsepower. They're both same sort of torque figures, same sort of feel, obviously slightly different looks. And really, I'm actually going to say it and say whichever one you personally think is better, go and buy that one.
So 143 grand is about what you should pay. That's good value these days
It's
when
good
a
value.
superbike
I
can
mean,
cost you nearly 300.
Look, I'm not going to compare these to the European bikes. They've got better specs, better everything, but also a lot more dear. You know what I mean?
A whole lot more, dear.
Yeah, so that is the important part. 143,000 Rand, that's a lot better than the Europeans. It hasn't got the specs of the European bikes, but it does come in at that price. So
And I'm looking at this here, and you've given it 4 hearts in the TomTom rating.
I have
4
given
out
it
of
4
5?
hearts. Where it lost the 1 heart, where a lot of the bikes, say the MT-09, all these sort of, and the European bikes, they've got that kind of bite. As you open the throttle, it kind of jumps at you. And I love that. It's kind of fun. It wants the front wheel to hop and all that kind of stuff. Whereas this thing sort of needs to build its revs. You know what I mean? It doesn't have that front wheel, that initial sort of shock.
So you're saying it's actually civilized and you don't like it like that?
I hate civilized. Can I say something else? We took this to the Impala Rally the next weekend after filming this. And we just had it parked sort of randomly somewhere. And I kid you not, every single person that walked past this bike stopped and had a look. I mean, even here, we're sitting here, there's all these beautiful-ish people, you know, and most of them, as they walk past, they kind of stop. I mean, it is an attractive motorcycle.
It is. Okay, on that note, on a note of beauty, we shall leave it and we'll be back with you after the break.